Greetings, Jonathan, and all of the Bhagavatam Loka. And thank you for joining me to discuss Chapter 3. We're going to start Chapter 3 of Book 5. So, at the beginning, Book 5 begins with Priyavrata. This person named Priyavrata. Priyavrata is the older son of Manu and Shatarupa. Manu and Shatarupa had 3 daughters, 2 sons. And we heard about all the 3 daughters and all their kids and what they all did. And the younger son and what all of his descendants did. And now we're hearing about Priyavrata. So we heard that Priyavrata, what did we basically hear? That we heard how he tried to modify the seasonal variance in the sun. And thereby wound up creating 7 divisions in the world for the different kinds of divinities to be separated into those divisions. And then he had 9 sons and 1 daughter, I believe, and he divided his kingdom, which is Earth, the Earth realm, the Earth world, into 9 parts. Each one of the sons took over from that. Then we heard about the oldest son, who was Agnitra, I think. And that was a cool story. He married an Apsara, if you can call it marriage, and they had 7 or 9 kids or something like that. 9. They had 9 boys again. And now, so that was chapter 2 was Agnidra and Purvachiti the Apsara. Chapter 1 was Priyavrata himself and his son Agnidra. And now Agnidra's first son, Nabi. Now, the interesting thing that happens for Nabi is that he meets the Apsara. The interesting that happens, for Agnidra, is that he meets the Apsara. So that's interesting. Then the interesting thing that will happen for Nabi is that he'll meet Vishnu. And then something special will happen related with Vishnu. So here we go. You probably want to be able to read this, right? Wow, how big will this be? That's big. Let's do something slightly smaller. Like that. Alright, Sri Shuka Uvacha. Nabhirapatikamo prajaya mirudevya Bhagavatam yagya purusham avahitatma yajata. Blessed Shuka said, Nabi wanted children, but Merodevi was not becoming pregnant. So they attentively worshipped the all-attractive master of endeavors. Simple. So remember, Agnidra's 9 boys married the 9 girls who are daughters of Meru. And there was no real clear information given about what exactly they mean by Meru, because Meru is the name for the mountain, which it's called a mountain, but it's the inverted mountain, which results if you start at the center of the earth. This is another proof of the roundness of the earth, is Meru. It's an inverted mountain because if you start at the center of the earth, Meru is the center of the earth and the equator. And that is established repeatedly in Surya Siddhanta and other places. So if you take the center of the earth and make a ray come out, like make a pie slice come out to the equator, you'll get this inverted triangle thing. That's Meru. So I don't know how that has daughters. So there was probably some person named Meru, maybe related to governing the center of the earth. I don't know. But in any case, there's 9 daughters of Meru, and the first one is named Merodevi. So the first boy of Agnidra married the first girl of Meru, and they became... and they tried to have kids. But Merodevi wasn't having kids. She wasn't getting pregnant. So they decided to do a yagya. They decided to worship the Yagya Purusha, the master of endeavors, the master of efforts. They decide to make an effort, right? A ceremonial effort to get a blessing to have a kid. Simple stuff. Hi, Anne. Hey, Heital. Ayo, Alf. All right, now that's a simple start. Let's see what the second one. Oh, the second one is long. I remember translating this. You know, I want to translate forever, but the brain actually runs out of like sugar power or something, and it just stops focusing. Okay, tasya havava shraddhaya vishuddha bhavena yajita pravargyeshu pracharastu dravya desha kala mantra ritvik dakshina vidhana yogopapatya. You recognize any of those words? Probably you do. Dravya desha kala mantra ritvik dakshina vidhana yogopapatya duradhigamanopi Bhagavan Bhagavata Vatsalyata Supratika Atmanam Aparajitam. Maybe there's a person who might watch this video named Aparajita. Supratika Atmanam Aparajitam Nija Janabi Pretartha Vidhitsaya Grihita Hridyo Hridyangamam Mano Nayananandan Avayavabhiramam Avishchakara. Whew. So not only is Sanskrit easier to write in poetry, it's easier to read in poetry. This is an interesting point just about literary arts. It's very difficult to write. In English, it's easier. People consider it easier to write English prose than poetry. But Sanskrit, it's easier to write poetry than prose if you're trying to be beautiful, if you're trying to be artistic. And I just realized it's easier to read the poetry than it is to read the prose. So, the Nabi wanted children, but his wife Maradevi was not becoming pregnant, so they very attentively worshipped the all-attractive master of endeavors. They performed the Pravargya ritual. Does anybody know what a Pravargya ritual is? It's still slightly known. They performed the Pravargya ritual with pure hearts and emotions and utilizing proper materials. This is that thing, if I asked you if you recognize the words, Dravya, Desha, Kala, Mantra, Ritvik, Dana. They performed the Pravargya ritual with pure hearts and emotions and utilizing proper materials, location, timing, mantras, priests, charity, and procedures. So this is two important things in there. Let's go back to that in a second. The all-attractive is very difficult to attain, but is also very compassionate to his lovable devotee. For his heart is attracted to what comes from our hearts. So he fulfills their desires. Thus they attain physical audience with his own unparalleled form, whose delightful limbs bring joy to the eyes and mind. So there's like kind of two sections in this statement. The first sentence and the second sentence. Let's talk about the first sentence. First of all, what's a Pravargya? Pravargya is the antecedent or introductory ritual to Soma. Soma, what do they call it? I'm not sure because I'm not an expert with this. If it's no, it must be Soma Yagya. You do Pravargya first. And it's interesting because it's for worship of Ashvini. And you know the relationship between Ashvini and Soma. The relationship is that they were denied Soma for some time. So before doing the Soma ritual, you satisfy the Ashvinis. With the ceremony called Pravargya. The way that Pravargya is done is you build your own clay pot out of the dirt that's there, available to you, and then you cook kheer in it. Kheer is a milk-boiled rice, and usually sweetened. And it's a very nutritious and delicious food, and the Ashvinis like it. Pushya from Revati Nakshatra really likes it. Pushan. So why would they worship the Ashwinis? Because they're having a medical problem, basically. Mara Devi is infertile. She's not getting pregnant. So they worship the Ashwinis. Because Ashwinis solve medical problems. Okay? Now, that's not terribly interesting. I mean, that is pretty interesting, but that's kind of just like facts. The thing which is very practical to understand is when you perform a ceremony, and it does not matter if you're doing Uttam Bhakti Sankirtan or if you're doing Pravargya ritual Karma Kandya for Ashwini, it's the same thing. It's this same principle will apply. Whatever ceremony or effort, it's not even if it has to be connected to anything religious or spiritual, anything, whatever effort you make, in general, it has two components to it. And you will only really be fully successful in so much as both of the components are fully good. The component is always the essence and then the form. The substance and the form. And that's what they're talking about here. Whenever you do anything, you need to have the substance within it. So like if you're writing a song, you need to be feeling a feeling that you want to express in the song. If you're building a house, you have to have the people in mind who are going to utilize the house before you start thinking about where the rooms go, etc., etc. Just substance. If you're going to try to go out and look sexy, you have to feel sexy first. The substance has to come before the form. The substance is very important. The substance is most important. That's what the lesson is going to come out from these couple of verses. But the form is not unimportant. The form is quite important. A lot of people who are into the substance over form thing let their form fall to shit. And they don't take good care of the form. But when the substance is really good, then we pay a lot of attention to the form. Because we care. Like let's say the substance is the mom makes a cupcake for her daughter. I mean, the activity is, right? The substance is the mom loves the daughter. And so the mom can make a crappy cupcake and say, yeah, but the substance, I love you. And that's very believable if the mom is just a very bad cook or something, right? But if the mom is a decent cook, but yet she still makes a terrible cupcake, how much was she paying attention to making the cupcake? And if that's the case, how much love is there? Because love takes your attention, it takes your focus. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of people already know this paradigm of substance and form, but a lot of people are remiss or lax remembering that that the form is the outer tangibility of the substance. And this is the same thing even when it comes down to your body and yourself. The soul and the body is the same thing as substance and form. And a lot of people will just separate substance and form and either pay all attention to form and no attention to substance. Like K-pop and all those guys, they just imitate other stuff. Or they'll try to give all the importance to the substance and ignore the form, which means they don't even understand the substance. You understand? So the way that Nabi and Meru worshipped the Ashwinis had very good substance and therefore had very good form. So that's why it's described like this. They performed the ritual with pure hearts and emotions. That's the substance. And utilizing proper materials, location, timing, mantras, priests, charity, and procedures. Those are the 7 essential aspects of the ceremony itself, of the ritual itself. You can't use substitute materials. You have to get the materials that are required for the ritual, and they should be of the high quality, not crappy ones that are left over and starting to rot. You have to do it at the right place. You can't just do it anywhere. You have to do it in a place that has qualities or faces this direction, or etc., etc., etc. You have to do it at the right time, and Pravargya is very specific. With it has to be this particular moon phase of this particular month. And you can't just do it at another time just because you want to. You have to use particular mantras, and you have to say them the right way, and you have to understand them. And you can't just be slack on that either. You have to have priests, and the priests have to be good, which means that they can't have just come out of the bowling alley or the strip club. They have to be actual priests. Charity. You have to give the results of your ceremony to other people, and you have to remunerate the priests. And so it can't be slack or lazy or stingy. It has to be opulent. And procedures means all of the rules and the orders in which you do things have to be done exactly right. That's the form of a ceremony. And the substance will cause the form to be excellent. If you just imitate the form, it won't cause the substance to be excellent. Okay? So that's the idea from the first sentence in this statement. Thank you, Ayo. And hello, everybody. Hello, Seema. Dr. Architect. Anne is here from Finland. That's very cool. I went to Finland maybe twice, and maybe I stopped through it a couple of more times. It's really an impressive place. The people actually are like giants or something. They're like the Nordic people are pretty amazing. Alrighty, now the second sentence, the all attractive. Now, what's this all attractive? This is Bhagavan. This is also something very interesting. So it says that they perform pravargya, right? So why don't they talk about Ashwinis next? They talk about Bhagavan, Bhagavata Vatsalya. And believe me, it's about Bhagavan, Vishnu, and you'll see Vishnu will come. So this is another really important point, is that your substance really determines the outcome of the effort. And the substance is very powerful, and it can use things which are meant for one thing for something else. Like some people are very expert, like, I don't know, was it Jimmy Page? Let's say Jimmy Page. He took a violin bow and he put it on an electric guitar. And the substance was really rock and roll. I mean, the outcome was really rock and roll and psychedelic rock and roll. Because that's his substance. So he could take any form and employ it for his substance. So that's very possible. Like if you have, let's say a flower, for example, you can give a flower to a child, you can give a flower to a lover, you can give a flower to a gravestone. It depends upon the substance of what you'll use the flower for, what you're feeling and who you're trying to relate with. So it's the same thing with the Vedic rituals. The Vedic rituals are all intended to actually worship Bhagavan, Vishnu. Even though they will do so via worshipping the Ashvinis or Agni, etc., etc. That's why you always say Om in the beginning of every mantra, regardless of who the mantra is to or what the mantra is about. Because the ultimate objective of everything is Vishnu, and Vishnu is the ultimate substance of all the forms of all the gods. So what's going on in this situation is, you see how a Vaishnav, like Nabi, you know that Nabi is a Vaishnav because you know that Brahma is a Vaishnav. And his son Manu is therefore a Vaishnav. We know that by his actions, but also you would just expect that he'd be educated by his father. And then his son Priyavrata is certainly a Vaishnav. He's a student of Narada Muni. And then Priyavrata's sons, they all were described as Anu Vargam. They followed they're just like their dad. So you know they're Vaishnavs. And then Agnidra and Nabi, they're Vaishnavs. They are Vishnu Bhaktas. But that doesn't mean that they think, I'm not going to do this Pravargya ritual. I'm just going to chant Vishnu, Vishnu, Vishnu. They'll do the Pravargya ritual because the Pravargya ritual is meant to improve your health. And when you're trying to do something, like get pregnant, then you need to improve the health, fix the body. Something's wrong in the body. But they worship Bhagavan by doing this ritual, because Bhagavan ultimately gave the ritual and said, this is how you can achieve this outcome, by performing this deed. That's why it said Shuddha Bhavena, Vishuddha Bhavena. That actually literally means with Prem Bhakti. So Nabi and Merodevi, out of their Vishnu Bhakti, are performing Pravargya ritual excellently, making sure they do it right. And as a result, they get Bhagavan's attention. So now there's some interesting information about Bhagavan. It says Bhagavan is Adidurgama, Duradigama. Very difficult to get to. Very far off, very remote from us, very in a different existence. So efforts to go to Bhagavan or bring Bhagavan to you are very, very unlikely to succeed. But it says Duradigama api. Even though it's very, very difficult to get to Bhagavan or to bring Bhagavan to you, Bhagavata Vatsalyata, because Bhagavan is attracted to the Bhagavan and has kindness, or Vatsal. Vatsal means like the way that you take, like the way that a cow takes care of its calf. So it means like the way that a mom feels about the child. Bhagavan has that feeling towards the Bhagavan. The Bhagavan is the person who loves Bhagavan, the person who belongs to Bhagavan. So if somebody belongs to you and you have a heart, then you feel very parental and protective and affectionate towards that person. And so attaching yourself to a person by belonging to them makes them feel that way towards you. And Bhagavan has that propensity. Bhagavan gets very attached, and the reason is grihita hridayo hridayangamam, that his heart is attracted to what comes from our hearts. This goes all the way to the actual ontological reason for our existence. We are manifested to provide to his heart the thing that it wants. Affection, love. And his heart is attracted to that, so it provides the same to ours. So, because of that, he shows up to their ritual. So this is illustrating that of the two, substance and form, the substance is the thing which makes the form energized. The substance makes the form energized. That's why somebody can go and imitate somebody else. You can do a cover band and cover Deep Purple songs all day long, but you're not going to be as impactful as Deep Purple was, even though you play the songs exactly the same way. Because the substance of actually, it also has to do with the form, because you're missing the time and the place and the circumstances. Desha Kala. Deep Purple was a thing that happened in the 70s and the 60s, and that's why it came alive at that time. That's another part of the substance that you actually can't imitate. I mean, of the form that you can't imitate. But here with Nabi, it's because the substance is Vishnu Bhakti, and it's pure Vishnu Bhakti. By doing the Pravargya ritual for the Ashvinis, they attract the mercy of Vishnu. So I hope all that is clear. The all-attractive is very difficult to attain, but is also very compassionate to his lovable devotees. So this is also the key to the basic, like the more basic or questions that you hear a lot, like, is it even possible to understand God at all? And the answer is no, but what if God wants to be understood, doesn't want to be lonely, doesn't want to be unknown? Then God can make himself knowable. That's what's going on here. That same dynamic. Thus they attained physical audience. So he actually showed up in the flesh. He showed up, physical audience, with his own unparalleled form. Aparajita Atma Rupam. Supratika is the word actually used. Whose delightful limbs bring joy to the eyes and mind. Okay, any questions? Those are the first two verses. Do you think this ritual will be effective for a common person in Kali Yuga? No, because the Kala is wrong. It's not supposed to be performed in Kali Yuga. All right, going to the next one. 3. Well, yeah, we'll read 3 and then we'll go review 1 and 2. Another long one. Woo! Here we go. Atahatam avishkrita bhuja yugala dvayam. Hey, y'all, let's take breaks. I'll just give what I remember about the words. So this means that then it's describing the physical, tangible appearance of Vishnu, because it said he physically, tangibly appeared, right? At their ceremony. So it says he avishkrita, he made himself seeable. Bhuja, arms, yugala, 2, dvayam, 2 of them. 2 of 2 arms. So with 4 arms, or two pairs of arms. Hiranmayam Purusha Vishesham. Hiranmaya. People like Bardo, are you here? You're here, Bardo. You know, you're familiar with the Hiranmaya. Hiranmaya refers to consciousness. It literally means the thing that glows golden. The thing that gives off light. Consciousness. Light is the awareness principle. Gives awareness. So consciousness is referred to Hiranmaya. But now he's the Hiranmayam Purusha Vishesham. He's the specified being of consciousness. He's specifying himself with 2 pairs of arms. Kapisha koshayambara dharam. It's describing his trademark attributes, trademark physical attributes, because substance has form. So even if you're saying, but this thing is spiritual, how will it have physicality to it? Don't be retarded. Don't be dumb. Everything spiritual has physicality, and everything physical has spirituality, because the physicality is the form and the spirituality is the substance of the form. So it's just, you have physicality, but you're consciousness. So the supreme person of consciousness, Hiranyamaya Purusha Vishesha, also has physicality, and it has certain trademarks to the physicality. One of them is it wears a silk cloth, and it has a certain color to the silk cloth, and the color is described as capisha, which my mom, she always used to say that, capisha, but that's because we're Italian. Capisha in Sanskrit means, it's a kind of non-specifically defined color between sunset red and sunset orangish yellow, but it's like a sunsetty yellow, and that's the color of the silk that Vishnu is known for wearing. Kapisha koshambara urasi vilasat srivatsa lalamam daravara vanaruha vanamala achuri amritamani gadadibir upalakshitam. Upalakshitam means it's trademarks. So it's also, urasi is vilasa or vilasat srivatsa lalamanam. So this also means that he's not wearing the silk thing on top. It's only a silk skirt. And then the chest is bare, and you can see that it has a mark. It has a scar. The scar is from his lover, Shri. And so the scar is a golden line. Daravara. Daravara is conch shell. So these are the four characteristic things that are in these four characteristic arms. Daravara Vanaruha, a lotus flower. Vanamala, a flower necklace. Achuri is a chakra. And then the Gada is the mace. And then Amritamani. Amritamani is a soul gem. I think if Vela is watching, he'll have a kick from the old Morrowind games and soul gems. Amritamani literally means soul gem or immortal jewel. But this is actually really the soul gem. It's called Chintamani sometimes, and it's the one that the particular Chintamani that's on Vishnu's necklace is called Kaustuba. But what it is it's a... This is pretty Tolkien-esque, actually. It's a jewel. Are you guys watching that new series? The new Tolkien series is very cool mythology. Like, it's distilled from the other mythologies. The Tolkien did a really good job of doing that. But the Silmarils and all those things are based on the concept of the Kaustuba money, or the Amrita money. So what it is it's a jewel from which, mystically speaking, from which consciousness emanates. Anyway, that's one of his trademarks. So it's kind of like he wears consciousness around his neck. No, this is another nice point. Sputa Kirana Pravara Mukata Kundala Kataka Kati Sutra Hara Keyura Nupuradi Anga Bhushana Vibhushitam. So now it says that there's a lot of ornaments on this form. And the ornaments, they're Sputa Kirana. They are giving off dazzling points of light. They're sparkly. Sparkling jewelry, ornaments. But at the end it says Anga Bhushana Vibhushitam. These beautiful sparkling ornaments are being beautified by the beautiful form of Vishnu. And what are the ornaments? You have Mukuta, which is like a crown. Kundala, which is earrings. Kataka, which is bracelets. Kati Sutra, which is belt. Hara, which is necklace. Keyura. Keyura is armlet. And Nupura is anklet. Alright, so then that's the end of the description. Then it says Ritvik Sadasya Grihapatyo Madhana Iva Uttamadhanam Upalabhya Sabhahumanam Sabahumanam Arhain in Avanta Shirshana Upatashtu. So now this means both the priests and the couple, the Grihapati, both the people, the householders, the married couple that are trying to do this ritual, that's Nabi and Mero, and the priests who are actually doing it, both of them felt like an adani, which means like a poor person, a poverty-stricken person, who suddenly got uttamadhana, the most fabulous wealth. And so with sabahumanam, with an incredible amount of respect and gratitude, they went towards Vishnu, upatashtu, with their heads bowing and carrying articles of respect and worship, expressing that affection, expressing that respect and gratitude. So here it is. The unique personality of consciousness became manifest with four arms, showing his trademarks like red gold silk, the mark of Shri on his beautiful chest, conch lotus disc and mace, and his immortal gem necklace. Dazzlingly sparkling ornaments like crowns, earrings, bracelets, belt, necklace, armlets, and anklets, you could make all of them plural, were ornamented by his body. The couple and their priests felt like poor people who had become fabulously wealthy, showing their true and copious respect through articles of worship and bowed heads they approached him. So what has basically happened so far? Basically what's happened is we found out that Priyavrata's third son, Nabi, married Maradevi but couldn't have kids. So performed a Pravargya ceremony to worship the Ashwinis to fix this problem of being infertile. But because they have so much Vishnu Bhakti, they attracted Vishnu by their Pravargya ceremony, and Vishnu appears, and then we hear the appearance of Vishnu, what it looked like. Now, the priests are going to speak. Any questions? Let me just check and see. I love this Shri. It's so great, isn't it? This Shri scratch. Jonathan says, maybe a silly question, but does this jewel grant wishes? This is the implication of it being called a Chintamani. That's also the implication of it being called a Amrita Mani. The implication is that the jewel itself has consciousness, so can respond to desires. But this is also, like when you pull this idea down into our existence, it sounds like there's a genie bottle and you can get wishes fulfilled from that bottle. But when you put the idea back into its original realm, Chintamani prakara sadmasu, kalpavriksha, the whole place is made of that stuff. So is this whole place. But everything is sleepy in this place. All of the matter is very sleepy or dormant, even though it's all made of that Chinta substance, that Brahman, conscious substance. But in Vishnu's realm, all of that consciousness is fully awake. So even the bricks, the floors, the stones, the pathways, the dirt, the jewels, the metals, they're all interactable. You can interact with them. This is why existence is effortless. The fulfillment of desires is immediate, perfect, and effortless, as you'll see in a second. Even stated right here. Because you can communicate. For example, you could communicate with your hair. What if you you have to like sit there and curl your hair and stuff. What if you could just communicate to your hair? Do this, do that, grow here, shrink, change color. What if you could just communicate to your body? This shape, this form, that form. To your house. That is actually what spiritual physicality is. The physical component of spirituality in its perfect state is that. It's completely compliant to the direction of its director. So, that Chintamani is a spiritual jewel, which means that it's actually alive, which means that if you ask it for something, you can grant it. So yes, the answer is yes. Now, the fourth and fifth text, the priests start to speak. They go towards Vishnu and they're going to talk to him. This is going to go on for 11 verses, and I didn't get to translate all the verses. So next week we'll also conclude what they say to him. Ritvikucha Arhasi Muhur. This is so cool. Arhasi Muhur Arhatmanarhanam. You hear how many times the word arha is used? Arha means something which is worthy or respectable, or arha has to do with respect. So arhasi muhur arhatmanarham. We'll see what the translation of that is. I don't want to spoil it. Asmakam anupatanam namo nama iti. Etavat sad upashikshitam. Korhati puman. Prakriti guna vyattikara matir anisha ishvarasya parasya prakriti purushayor arvakta. What is it? Arvaktanabir nama rupa kirtibi rupa nirupanam sakala jana nikaya vrijina nirasana. Shivatma pravara guna gunaika deshak katanad rite. They say a very interesting thing. Oops, I forgot to footnotize this. Just a moment. Footnoting in progress. The priest said, "Oh, respectable, oh, most respectable." Remember arhasi admanam, arhasi muhur arhatmanat arhanam. Oh, most respectable, respect our respects. Again, this is the interesting thing. When somebody shows you respect, you show your respect back by respecting their respect. That's what they're asking for. Because respectable people don't really delight in getting respect. It's really people who are hungry for respect that eat up your respect. But people who are kind of beyond the hunger for getting respect, they don't really appreciate respect that much. Except for the fact that they respect other people. So since they respect other people, they respect the respect given to them by other people. And that's what they're asking Vishnu to do. It's not that you need our worship. It's not that you need our attention. It's not that you need our respect or affection. But you're affectionate towards us. You're respectful towards us. You're attentive towards us. Therefore, let our respect towards you have some effect. Be fruitful, be useful, be accepted by you. Oh, most respectable, respect our respects again and again. Muhu, muhu. We are your followers, so we say nama, nama. Nama, nama means respect, respect. Nama, nama iti, they said. Anupataya, nama, nama iti. We're your followers, so we say we offer you respects and respects because somebody taught us to do that. Because that is what we were wisely taught to do. Asmakam anupatanam namo nama iti etavat sad upashikshitam. We were told, we were educated that we should respect you. So that's what we do, we respect you with our words. But we don't really get it. We don't really understand it. So the thing that says, what qualification do we have? In fact, what qualification does anybody have? A person whose intellect ineptly tumbles around with the qualities of matter cannot define the defining names, forms, and facets of the supreme master of matter and spirit. So look at that sentence, it's very cool. And it goes back to that discussion we were having before about, can you know God if God is infinite? Well, the infinite part is really irrelevant because you're also infinite. But can you know God? And the answer is no, but yes. You can't know God, but God can be known to you. So here they're saying people don't have a qualification to even describe you. And he explains why. Ko arhati, what qualification, Puman, does a person have? Prakriti guna vyatikara. They're vyatikara. They're tumbling around. Their intellect, their matir, is vyatikara. It's just tumbling around with the gunas of Prakriti. With the qualities of Prakriti, just with external perceptions. A person whose intellect is just tumbling around in perceivable things. Anisha, without mastery of it. How can that anisha mati, that masterful less intellect, describe Ishvara, the master of everything, who is not just the Ishvara, but is the Param Ishvara, the supreme master of masters, not just of the Prakriti, but also of the Purusha. Our small intellect in matter is just wrestling with Prakriti. Not even able to step into the ring with Purusha. Even though we are Purusha. Purusha is the conscious substance. But our intellect is just wrestling with trying to understand the form that the substance takes. We don't even know how big the universe is. We don't even know where it comes from. We don't know what planet is where, what stars. Here we don't know how the earthquakes, when are they going to happen, with the weather, which direction is this tornado going to move. We can't figure out any of this stuff, and it's just in the form of reality, not even in the substance of it. How can such beings, who can't even figure out which direction a cyclone is going to turn, figure out the person who is the master of those prakritis and also the master of all the conscious beings that we haven't even been able to try to figure out? So that's what he's saying. So he's saying they told us to people have told us to offer you our respects, but we don't actually really even know how to. But to describe even one bit of your host of supremely auspicious qualities destroys every misfortune a person might have. So what he's saying is, the descriptions that you hear and try to make of Vishnu are not exhaustive, absolutely conclusive, absolutely descriptive, absolutely accurate. They're not. But if they're even 1%, then it's not even the definition itself, but the effort to comprehend and the effort to make the definition that is the auspicious thing which destroys all the misfortune in the consciousness. So here, that's why he said, Sakala Jana Nikaya Vrijna Nirasana. Nirasana means it's going to destroy the Vrijna, the unhappiness, the misfortune. Sakala Jana Nikaya, that everybody has made. And what is going to? Shivatama Pravaraguna, the qualities of you, which are Shivatama, Shiva Uttama, Uttama Shiva, which means literally, which really means the most auspicious. Ganaika Desha, Gana, Guna Gana, there's millions of them, but even Aika, even one of them, even just Eka Desha, even just a part of one of them, Katanat. If we describe it, if we talk about it, if we discuss it, then it destroys all the misfortunes, and Rite, that's the real situation. So that's what the priest said. They said, we're going to try to say something about you. But it's not like we think that we're qualified to say anything about you, but we're going to try to say something about you because we were instructed to do so, and we know that's the right thing to do, and we know that even just the effort to do it is really the whole point. Any questions? Hey, Graziella. Parijana Anuraga. It's easier to actually read from this, but because I'm so form oriented, the way things look matter to me, I take the word for word and get it out of the way. But because here, the way it's written here, it's all sandhit, it's all blended, all the words are blended together. Sanskrit is not only spelled the way it sounds, the way that the words blend together when you pronounce them in sequence is also spelled out. So it's, to a person who hasn't been speaking it for their entire life, it's extremely difficult to read because everything is changing. The way that words sit together makes the beginnings and the ends of them change in your mouth when you pronounce it, but Sanskrit spells it out that way. So you have to actually know about all that and then decode it to get it back to some word that you could recognize or look up if you're not familiar with. That's why it's a little more difficult to read it here, where it's all smushed, than here, where I broke it out. But anyway, Parijananu Raga Virachita Shavala Sabda Salilasita Kisalaya Tulasika Durvankurai Api Sambrataya Samparyaya Kila Parama Paritushyati. You are truly supremely satisfied when your associates express themselves to you with words that stutter from love and from the water, fresh flowers, tulsi, and grasses they bring to you. So again, substance and form. The substance is the love, his heart is attracted to what our hearts produce. So that's the substance of how people worship Vishnu, with their affection, with their love. Parijana Anuraga. Anuraga means love or affection, or actually it means the movement, the expression of the affection, the things which come from love. Anuraga Virachita Shabala. Shabala means weak, wavering, faltering. Sham Shabda. The words that they say are stuttery, they're faltery, they're flickery because of Anuraga. Because of love, they get choked up. That's what you really get Paritusha from. Very, very supreme. Parama Paritusha. Parama means supreme, and Pari means all around. Complete. So supreme, complete satisfaction. So let's do that. You are supremely, completely satisfied. It's really from the love, but the love also shows itself in a particular form, in caring about details of things. And so that's why it's also Shalila Sita Kishalaya, Salila Sita Kishalaya Tulasika and Dhruvankir, which is water, fresh flowers, tulsi, and grasses. But that Shabala is also attached to those things. Those things don't have to be flawless when the substance is very, very strong. So this is the other thing. If the love is very, very lax, it's not really a lot of love, then when you're baking a cake for a person, it might come out really bad because you're not paying attention. You're thinking about other stuff that's more important to you. But on the other hand, if the love is supremely very, very strong, then trying to bake a cake for a person, it might also come out very bad, because that it excites and causes excess energy in you, and you can't do things very well. You stutter or falter or shake or get distracted. So that can also be the case in how people worship Vishnu. Like, for example, Vidura didn't realize he was feeding Krishna the banana skin instead of the banana. He was feeding Krishna the peel, and Krishna didn't care. He was eating the peel that Vidura was giving him. But then when he realized he was giving him the peel, he apologized and gave him the banana instead. Okay, so that's the sixth. And then look what he says in the seventh one. Let me keep this on the screen. Attanayapi nabhavita ijoru bhara. Oh, this is Bharya. Ijoru bhara bharya samuchita martam iho palabhamane. We can deduce upamana, labhamana. We can deduce, we can figure out that the baggage is not as important. We think that carrying a lot of baggage is not really important and meaningful in worshiping you. That's the way that they describe the form, and how they compare the form to the substance. They describe the form as being a lot of things you have to carry. Literally, in a ceremony, there's a lot of wood you have to carry. There's a lot of grains, rice, bricks, rocks you have to carry to the sacrificial place and set up. So that's called bharya, stuff you have to carry. Urubhara bharya means really heavy baggage. A lot of luggage. Luggage would be better than baggage. Ata anya apina, but this isn't really the essence. The essence of what makes what they're saying in statement 7, is in statement 6. They said, "What you're completely satisfied by stuttering words of love and offerings of water, flowers, simple offerings. Even they're saying the simple things. You don't need heaps of gold and all that stuff. Water, flowers, tulsi leaves. It's like a basil leaf, and some kind of grass called durva grass. Like really basic stuff anybody can get. So now they say even we've already given a very simple description of the form, but we can tell by your personality that what is really exciting you is not, it's not that you need water or you need a flower. It's not the baggage that we carry in the worship that is the thing that you actually are delighted about. It's the fact that we love you and got these things. Just think about it. If your husband or your wife gives you flowers, what is delightful? The flowers or the love? It's the love which is delightful, but the love required the flowers to show itself. It manifests itself by putting together these flowers. And so the form is not deletable. You can't just get rid of it, but it's not the actual focus or the thing which delights. It's the vehicle for attaining access to the thing which delights. Okay. Atmanevanu savanam anjasa vyatirekana bhuyamana nashesha purushartha swarupasya kintu nataishisha ashasananam etad abhisamradhana matram bhavitum arhati. Now they're going to kind of denigrate themselves, which is also a good practice. And it's also, even in very intimate relationships, it's done in a very delicate way. The way that you can get somebody to, even in love, romance, you can't really praise yourself. If you praise yourself too much, then the person starts to make you think if you're going to live up to that. But if you kind of not degrade, but if you depreciate yourself slightly, then the person will try to compensate for that. That will actually, so sometimes depreciating yourself makes the other person's appreciation for you come up. So that's also just a common, like you could say, tactic in the war of flirtations and so forth. And so the priests, they employ it here with Vishnu. But these tactics are not insincere. They're driven by the sincerity. So they say your intrinsic form self-sufficiently, constantly, instantaneously, and flawlessly fulfills everything a person could want with limitless abundance. But, Master, the real reason we worship you is just to get blessings for our ambitions. So they're denigrating themselves right now. They're saying, we're kind of stupid. Like, remember so this is actually also the verse where we were talking before about the Chintamani and the wish-fulfilling gem. So here you can see that bit of like, that is the nature of spiritual physicality, is that it's completely interactive and reactive with the consciousness that's driving it. And so you get this thing of, describe your self-sufficient, constant, instantaneous, and flawless fulfillment of desires. So don't think like, a desire is not so great if it's instantaneously fulfilled. It needs to be fulfilled after some work. That's also worked into the plan. That's also a fact, and it's worked into how things operate. But it's called instantaneous and flawless. So the instantaneosity, and also the word babuya manasa constantly also means increasingly. So the flaw in fulfilling of desires is once they're fulfilled, they're fulfilled. So then the motivation is gone. You notice lovers will make love and then they'll stop. So what? That's not that great because it's done. But with spiritual physicality, the experience continues to increase. So even though there's fulfillment of it immediately, there's more to be hungry for. So that's the nature of spiritual physicality. Now, what he's saying here is the way that, how is he denigrating himself? How are the priests denigrating themselves? Because they're saying, you yourself are a being that could fulfill anything anybody wants, instantaneously, perfectly, constantly, flawlessly. But we're so stupid that we just have one little thing that we want from you. We don't want you. We just want something from you. That's how dumb we are. So it's like, imagine if you found a genie bottle and the genie pops out and says, I grant you one wish. And you say, I wish for a vase. I need a bottle. Or imagine if you found a tree that was a wishing tree. And you go up to the tree and the tree says, what do you desire? And you say, I need an apple. That's what the priest is presenting themselves as being like. The real reason that we worship you is just to get blessings for our ambitions. We're not worshiping you for you. We're worshiping you for us. But it's not really the truth in this case, but they're speaking that way because they feel that way because they're dealing with some detail of what they're doing. They need kids. All right, any questions? There's more, but this part, maybe you could bring up some questions. Space bug. Wait, isn't love the thing that we want? Yes, love is the thing that we want, but love is the substance. Love as form. So I don't really know why you said that. But. All right, so let's see what has been said so far. A lot of people came in late. Graziella, you'll get recap right now. Blessed Shuka said, Nabi wanted children, but Mero Devi was not becoming pregnant. So they very attentively worshipped the all-attractive master of endeavors. So, but I thought they worshipped Ashwinis. But the Ashwini sacrifice is what the Yagya Purusha, Vishnu, the all-attractive master of endeavors, told people to do, to get rid of this particular problem. So by doing that sacrifice, they're actually respecting Vishnu. They perform the Pravargya ritual with pure hearts and emotions and utilizing proper materials, location, timing, mantras, priests, charity, and procedures. The all-attractive is very difficult to attain, but is also very compassionate to his lovable devotee, for his heart is attracted to what comes from our hearts. So he fulfills their desires. Thus they attained physical audience with his own unparalleled forms. That shows you their real desire. The real desire was to have the audience of Vishnu. You see how a spiritually alert person reacts to their problems. This is a legitimate problem. You want to have kids and you can't. But a spiritually alert person like Mero Devi and her husband Nabi, they felt, this is an opportunity for us to interact with Vishnu. Cool. So, and that's what they attained. They attained physical audience with his own unparalleled form, whose delightful limbs bring joy to the eyes and mind. The unique personality of consciousness became manifest with 4 arms, showing his trademarks like red gold silk, the mark of Shri on his beautiful chest, conch lotus discus and mace, and his immortal gem necklace. Dazzlingly sparkling ornaments like crowns, earrings, bracelets, belts, necklaces, armlets, and anklets were ornamented by his body. The couple and their priests felt like poor people who had become fabulously wealthy. Showing their true and copious respect through articles of worship and bowed heads, they approached him. The priest said, "O most respectable, respect our respects again. We are your followers, so we say Namah Namah, because this is what we were wisely taught to do. But what qualification do we have? A person whose intellect ineptly tumbles around with the qualities of matter cannot define the defining names, forms, and facets of the supreme master of matter and spirit. Yet to describe even one bit of your host of supremely auspicious qualities destroys every misfortune a person might have. You are supremely, completely satisfied when your associates express themselves to you with words that stutter from love. You are completely, supremely satisfied when your associates when they express themselves to you with words that stutter from love and offer water. Okay, that wording works. And from the water, fresh flowers, tulsi, and grasses they bring to you. We think carrying a lot of luggage is not really important and meaningful in worshiping you. Your intrinsic why? This thing about the self-sufficient desire fulfilling nature of his intrinsic form explains why the baggage is not important in the ritual. Like, if you come to my shop and you give me $20 for my product, the $20 is important because I need the money. That's why I opened a shop. But if I'm a millionaire, then having you give me $5 for something is not that important. It's just more like a token of the respect. So if God is somebody who needs water and needs flowers and needs food or needs money or needs gold, then the money that you give, the water you give, is actually literally important in and of itself. But that's not God or spirit at all in general. So that's why they say your intrinsic form self-sufficiently, constantly, instantaneously, and flawlessly fulfills every desire. So what is the purpose of us bringing you desirable things? Except that we love you. So we want to bring you desirable things because we love you. And it's the love which is the important. But Master, the real reason we worship you is just to get blessings for our ambitions. And now 9, which is the last one I got today. So now Vishnu is going to say, well, then why the heck did I come here? If the real reason that you can also joke back when you're intimate with somebody. You know, like I said, you can intentionally, you can elicit compliments from a person by intentionally demoting yourself, but also in reverse, you can kind of criticize the other partner in the relationship. And it works when the substance is loving. It works as a method to make them feel needing of your forgiveness, right? So then they will it will heighten their emotion and intensify the relationship of neediness on each other. So in between these two verses, Bhagavan's reaction might be, wait, I came here by mistake? You guys you're just worshipping the Ashrinis? That's all you wanted? You just wanted a kid? You just wanted to get rid of this medical problem? You didn't want to see me? And also, what he means by that jest is, come on, I wouldn't have come here if that is true. I wouldn't have showed up here. Why do you think I showed up here? But so now in the 9th text, the priests are going to respond to that jest. Their response is basically, you are generous, and so you don't see the flaws that we have. You only see the good parts that we have, and you give us more than what we deserve or better than what we deserve, like the way that a parent deals with a child. So they say, Tad yatha balishanam swayam atmanashreya param avidusham parama purusha I don't know why they say. Oh, I do know why. Well, I think I know why. Padma Purusha, because they're talking about parents. So parents are Padma Purush. I mean, this is not the way that you're used to hearing of the word Padma Purusha, but Padma Purusha means superior person. So, like an elder is a Padma Purusha, but Vishnu is Padma Purusha, superior to all the superior people, the elder of the elders, etc. He's the origin of Brahma. So but it's kind of comical. Padma Purusha, Prakarsha Karunaya, Prakarsha Karunaya. A lot of concentrated kindness. Prakarsha Karunaya. Swamahimanam. It's your own glory. That you came here to our measly little ritualistic, materialistic ceremony is not our glory, it's your glory. It shows how compassionate you are. Chapavargyakyam ubakalpayishan. You're thinking of our ultimate good. Or literally, you can translate it, you're thinking about our emancipation or liberation. But apavarga generally just means the ultimate good. So the way that a parent thinks about a kid is they think about how they're going to grow up, what kind of job they're going to have, what person they're going to be when they grow up. So they try to give the children things which are going to be good for their welfare in the long run. Even though all the kid wants is a Reese's peanut butter cup or a Snickers bar or some chocolate milk. The kid just wants something that's right now to make me happy right now. But the parent takes care of that, but thinks about giving the child the long-term benefit that the child doesn't even know about. The priests are saying this is the way that you deal with us. Say this is the way that Vishnu deals with people. They don't worship Vishnu for anything grand, but he gives them grand things. Swam na pachita eteradvad iho palakshita. And they're apologizing here in this last statement. Just as parents think about their children's ultimate welfare, even though the children don't, you, the supreme of all superiors, show your abundant kindness, thinking about our ultimate liberation. You have come here and show yourself just like an ordinary person, even though we did not specifically worship you. This is your greatness. So, the way that Vishnu appeared, uninvoked. Vishnu was not invoked in the Pravargya ceremony. The Ashwinis are invoked, and I think Agni, some other devatas are invoked. But Vishnu appeared. The way that he appeared, the fact that he appeared uninvoked, means that he just wandered in like an ordinary person. Itaravat, like some ihopalakshita. You look like an ordinary person coming here uninvited. We apologize for that. We're sorry about that. Okay, so that's about 60 or 70% of what the priests say to Vishnu. I gotta still work on the rest. And then we'll get Vishnu's response. Because remember, they're doing Pravargya because Meru wants to become pregnant. Meru and Nabi, they want to have a kid. So what's going to happen is Vishnu is going to say, I came here to fulfill your desires. You guys want a kid, right? And they say, yeah. And he says, well, because remember, Vishnu will fulfill desires better than anybody else can. What does this say? YouTube is not receiving enough video for smooth screws. This is so funny. Can you guys hear me? You guys can hear me, right? I'm just going to answer this Suraj. Suraj gave this great question. Bharya is called wife. So does that mean Bharya is baggage for a man? Why does the man need to have Bharya to improve himself? Suraj, you got it backwards. The wife is the one who has to bear being around your stinky butt all the time. That's why she's called Bharya. There's a lot to forbear. Or the other way around is that your responsibility is to take care of this person. That's why she's called Bharya. Bharya doesn't mean baggage. Bharya means the thing that you have to carry. Uru Bhara Bharya means heavy luggage, unnecessarily heavy luggage. A wife is not called that. Okay, guys. I shall see you next week. I hope you guys have a great weekend and remember all this stuff from the Bhagavatam and that it affects your life and your perception of the world. And me too. Thank you.